Welcome back to the Goonerverse, everyone. Welcome back to player ratings. Arsenal destroyed Wigan 4-0, made light work of it, all wrapped up within 27 minutes. And Bukayo Saka got a new role, a role that Mikel Arteta has said we could use more in future, and it was something he wanted to try. Look, if we just very quickly look at the Arsenal bench, the likes of Pierre Nketiah, Gabriel Magalhaes, Marley Salmon, they were all on the bench. So when Calafiori picked up that injury, he didn't need to move Lewis Skelly back out to left back and get Bukayo Saka in central midfield. He did it for a very particular reason. He even could have brought on, Declan Rice or Martin Zubimendi and managed their minutes further down the line, because it's not like Bukayo Saka gets regular rest, right? But he decided to give him the start, which I thought was really, really interesting. What did you all make of it? What did you think of Bukayo Saka in this new role? And we will rate him as we rate all the players. As you can see, the tier lists are there ready to go. Just some thoughts on that role in particular, just some thoughts on why I think it worked. I talked about it in my match reaction. And the thing I've said more than anything was, when you get players at standing starts in the areas they're more comfortable in, rather than having to work themselves into those positions, you've kind of removed half the work, and then therefore maybe they flourish a bit more naturally. What I mean by that is Bukayo Saka is standing ready to go in the half space. It's where he's asked to be, rather than being a right winger who floats into that, but then everything else needs to work. You need the right 8 to drop deeper or move somewhere else. You need the right back to overlap and hug the touchline. But Bukayo Saka actually being in that area of the pitch meant that he drew players to him. He's got the strength. He's really good with his back to goal. He can make things happen. And it opens a little bit more space for Madueke. But when Madueke did want to come on the inside, Saka could shift along, or he could go to the touchline, or Ben White could be the one overlapping too. And all these dynamics, I think, helped a lot for the team. I think everybody benefited from these alternating roles, from the fact that we just tried something very, very different. Eze and Saka, I thought were going to be our starting wingers in a front three, but we had them today very, very close to our starting striker, with Martinelli and Madueke out on the right and left as well. An incredibly attacking 11. It was against 22nd placed League One side Wigan. I appreciate that, but that's not to say that some of those patterns aren't somewhat transferable, translatable to the Premier League. Would love your thoughts on all that. Not just actually in the comments now, or we might do a video on it tomorrow, but I think more in the next, I'm trying to shuffle along, my camera's all over there. But almost in the next months and years, as Dalman develops and Waneri returns, those are the kind of players we might see in that area of the pitch. What does it mean for Martin Odegaard, who I think is more suited to the left 8 role anyway? But it's very interesting. A lot of players can play in that area of the pitch, and we wondered how they could all fit, and we might have just seen a little bit of an insight into how they could. Anyway, want to know your thoughts on all the players, how they did. And yeah, you give me your ratings as we go through each player. We start with Kepa Arrizabalaga, who I thought was good today. I don't think he did anything wrong. He made a good save. Didn't notice his distribution, but they had 2 shots on goal all game, so there wasn't really a lot for him to do. So I think he was good. I'm happy to just leave it at that, unless I've missed anything and you all want to add to it. Kepa's a good second choice keeper. We're going into these games not fearing that teams are going to really stick it on our goalkeeper or think that there's a weakness there they can exploit in any way, because he's a good keeper. He's starting for Bournemouth. What, last season, 2 years ago? Part of a Real Madrid squad. He's had a good career, Kepa, and now he's Arsenal's number 2, and I'm here for it. Fair play to him. A lot of people agree, with Nazir saying that Kepa should start the Carabao Cup final. I don't know if I'd go that far, but we'll talk about that near the time. Kepa poor for me. Even Gunnersaurus saved a penalty today. Fair enough. Cool. Let's go into the back four. Should we start with the right back, Ben White? Average. I thought Ben White was average today. I can't say I particularly noticed him. I don't think he did anything wrong. It was interesting. He ran offside when Madueke played that ball to him early in the game. And, Noni looked at him when it was like, sort of, why'd you stop? And Ben was like, I was offside. But I'm like, okay, but you also ran offside. Like, obviously Noni's probably going to trust that you've held your run if he's going to play that pass. I think between average and good is being said here from Felix. I agree with that. I agree he's far better going forward than Timber. He played a lovely pass, didn't he, to Gyökeres where he hits the post. Maybe, do you know what? Do you know what? I'm being harsh. I think I'm being harsh. I think I'm being harsh. He did play some nice passes in behind. And if Kepa's are good, then I think Ben White's are good. I don't think he ever had any issues defensively. Oh, yeah. This is tough. It's so tough when it's an FA Cup game like this, right? Because, who am I even going to put in average? Let's see. Maybe we can go back and change some of these. I'll stick with good for now. I think he was good, and I think Kepa was good, and we can keep it at that. Let's go to Miles. And this is, I think, what I mean. I thought Miles was a bit better than Ben White. I thought he looked a bit more involved. I thought he attempted some nice passes over the top. I think he looked, did some nice things in possession in tight spaces. Yeah, I like Ben. I like Miles Lewis-Skelly's performance at left back. I don't think it was absolute best. I don't think he's hit the heights of the Bernabeu or both games against Real Madrid and at times last season. But I thought Lewis-Skelly had a good game. I sort of wonder whether basically all three of them were probably average. I might need to change this quite early. You know what? I am actually going to do this early. While they all had good moments, they did. I don't think there was anything special from any of them. I'm happy to say they're all average on the day. They all were fine. They did some nice things, at times not noticeable. I'm happy to move them all to average and just sort of have it at that. William Saliba and Mosquera, what would you give them? What would you give those two? This might be the hardest I've ever found it because it was such an easy game, because there was so little challenge. Basically, I could just put everyone in very good, right? I could just not waste everyone's time to say, yeah, everyone was very good. We won 4-0 and it was easy. I think both centre backs were good today. I think they got in front of, they made it difficult for the strikers. They made it really light work. And they just kind of kept it moving. I think they were just a cut above the fullbacks. And I think the reason I'm saying that is because with the fullbacks, there's a little more opportunity to get forward and kind of show something. I know I'm contradicting myself as I'm saying this, because Lewis-Skelly played some lovely passes, had some lovely moments in tight spaces. Ben White did some okay stuff. I think the centre backs were just a cut above slightly. Now we're moving into the forward players, and I think it gets easier from this point. I think we can basically just say Norgard was brilliant. I think he basically just received the ball on the half turn really well, was winning possession back brilliantly, played a lovely ball over the top to Gabby Jesus, who scored. He just looked so involved. Like, he looked really tight in possession, kept everything moving. I thought Norgard was great. Some lovely switches of play. I thought he had a really, really, really good game. For Eze to have the moments he did in TNT Sports still give Norgard man of the match, I think speaks to how good Norgard was. And I think as we do the rest of these forwards, we can then adjust to the other players accordingly. But I think Norgard was really, really good. Good to see him getting a lot of love. He needs more Premier minutes. So good. Wow. He looked amazing. He did what none of our midfielders do. Let go of it quickly. He does release it quickly, doesn't he? And a lot of you agreeing that he was really, really good. Someone said Norgard is too good for Zubimendi to be playing as many minutes as he is. And I thought that was a perfect way of summing it up. No one is saying Norgard's too good, Zubimendi's not at it, take Zubi out. But I think what people are implying is for Zubimendi, basically Zubi should never look exhausted and run into the ground, because there's a player of more than adequate quality. And we saw it for years for Brentford, who can come in and do a job and keep things moving. And this has to be remembered. Lads, it was Wigan. Let's be real, it was Wigan. That's fine. But did he not look great at centre-back in the Champions League? I think whenever we've called upon Norgard, he's largely come in and done a really nice job. So I would be inclined to give him more minutes. But for today, he was brilliant. Yeah, he was class versus Palace. I agree with that as well. Was that the Carabao Cup game? Yeah. And Birmingham are agreeing they should be playing more Premier League minutes. Yeah, well done, Norgard. Really good performance. Then we move into the dual tens. Let's go Eze first. I think you've got to say he was brilliant, don't you? Because of the 2 assists. Had a great shot saved at the end. What I love about the assists is his willingness to he sees space and he just hits it. Now, in fairness, this is when the whole, this comment matters. Lads, it was Wigan. You know, Premier League sides probably don't give you that time in midfield, as he probably doesn't get away from a midfielder quite that easily in the middle of the park like he did for the first goal. And the space isn't necessarily there for Madueke and Martinelli to attack. But when it is, I'm glad that there was a bravery and intention to play it. Now, for those saying, oh, is Erdegaard cooked? Look, that space was there against Olympiacos, and Erdegaard kept playing it to Gyökeres. So Erdegaard will do it. The space just isn't there anymore. So you need someone like Eze who's willing to drop the shoulder, can beat a player or two to make that space, to manufacture that space. A lot of people saying Eze was brilliant. I'm glad a lot of you agree. Brilliant now in your consistency. He wanted it today, though he didn't hide. Excellent. Wish he had scored, and he nearly did. Yeah, he looked really good. I don't know if him with a Saka in central midfield is a long-term solution, but for a game like this, it worked really, really well. Wigan were there for the taking. They're quite a beaten-up team. You know, they've changed manager, 22nd in the championship, in League One, should I say. They were there to be got at. And Eze, he showed that. He went, yeah, look, let me flex a little bit here. Let me get some confidence. And he did so brilliantly. So, yeah, well done, Eze. I thought he did really well. Bukayo Saka. I'm going to put him in very good. I'm going to put him just a level below Eze and Norgard. I thought Norgard was arguably man of the match, and Eze nearly scored, had the 2 assists, obviously played longer. Saka only had 45 minutes. But I thought Saka was extremely encouraging in that new role. I thought on the half turn, he was great. He looked after the ball brilliantly. His cutback was so good. And it's not the cutback, it's the run. It's that piercing run and using his right foot. I do think there's something in that, you know. I do think there's something long-term with Saka in that position. At least more central. I've been calling for it for ages. And I think he needs a role that frees him. So whether he's got a free role on the right where he can float around, or he's playing up front and can drop deep, or he is playing as the right 8/10. I think there's got to be a way we can get him more central, more involved in the game. His strength is too good. He's too good in the air. His first touch, back to goal, his work off both feet. I just think reducing him to just a touchline winger is a waste of his talent. And I think you can see that he can get goals and assists and productivity from more central spaces. I really hope it's an evolution Arteta is seriously considering. If he'd had more of a moment, and I know he essentially got the assist for the 3rd goal, but if he had more of a moment, I think I'd have put him in brilliant. So I think he's just a level below Norgard, who's man of the match for many, and Eze, who obviously got a lot of those standout moments. Agreed, James, but doesn't he drift into that 10 position a lot even as a right winger? Okay, so yes, it's a good observation. Can I be a bit pedantic? This is what I was thinking about making a video on. Tell me if I'm overdoing it. Tell me if I'm doing too much in the comments. I have a feeling that when he's playing on the right wing and he moves inside, because his on paper position is right wing, the left back has taken responsibility for him. So as Saka moves in, the fullback follows him. They come all the way together. So all he does is narrow that back 4, and then the winger drops deep to follow our right back getting forward. I think that's so often why it's Timber who makes that underlapping run, because Saka hugging the touchline stretches that back 4. So Yes, he does drift into that position, but I think it's less about where he stands and more about who picks him up. Because I think if he's playing as a central midfielder, their left back is worrying about Noni Madueke and being isolated with him. So he always keeps an eye on him. He doesn't want to give Noni the run on him. So that creates a gap between centre back and fullback. So when Saka goes to stand in that space, it's either the centre back comes across and bam, you've got central access, or because you've stretched the centre backs apart, or a midfielder drops deep. But the midfielder is then torn between dropping deep and following Saka and pressing onto the man on the ball. And I think that's why you saw De Bruyne do it for years. They can get that blindside run and attack that space a little bit better than, when, say, Noni's got the ball and it's that right eight making the run, rather than when Timber's got the ball and Saka's making the run from the 10, the 10 space as a right winger where the left back has tracked him anyway. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. I think this comment might explain it. Finally, no fullback sitting in the half spaces. I think that's that's actually more to do with us. But I think it's true of the opposition too. Their fullback isn't sitting in the half space when Saka goes there. Chrome agrees with me. It might be worth a video. And if I can think of a way to analyze it and narrate it better, I will. But I think that's why it works. I think that's why it works better. It's such a small little thing, but it's a bit like when Zinchenko inverted into midfield. I'll try and make a video, and I think maybe Zinchenko is a good example. When Zinchenko inverted into midfield, in theory, like, why couldn't teams pick him up? Because he was playing alongside Partey or Jorginho. It was still a double pivot, wasn't it? So in theory, why can teams pick him up? Because they didn't know who to follow. So they didn't know whether the right winger should pick him up or whether the right winger should drop back to track Martinelli, and then everyone else can, can step up a bit and pick up Zinni. And for years they didn't figure out until they did. So I don't know. I just wonder. Okay. Fair play to these three. All playing in a role, in a combination that I don't think suits them best. And they all did great. Well done to them. Martinelli. Very good. Beat his fullback a few times. Made things happen. Scored a really good goal. I think very good is a fair reflection of his performance. If you would bump him up or bump him down, let me know. This was a game about the forwards, wasn't it? I know in theory, all of these players could be good. They could all be very good, perhaps. But I think the attackers deserve the most praise. We've been critical about them. Of course, it was only Wigan, but they still had to get the job done, and they absolutely did. Gabi Jesus. I think this is going to be controversial. I'm going to put him down as just good. I think that's going to be controversial for some, but I think he was only good. And the reason is there was some lovely moments. It was a great finish for the goal. I found him infuriating today, I have to be honest. I found Jesus infuriating at times. He was giving the ball away so needlessly. He was driving into spaces. He was over dribbling to the point of like closing off his own angles he'd worked. He did well. He pulled off, into the wide areas, took some lovely touches, beat a few players. He did some good things. That's why I put him down as good. He scored. But there was just some moments that I was just like, come on, Gavin, you're better than this. Loose passes, just things I thought, over complicating it. Just some moments that frustrated me. Yeah, careless in possession. Careless in possession is a good way to put it. Jesus was good. Yeah, mixed game. Some saying too many touches, some saying very good. I'm being harsh. What would you give him then? Kwaku, what would you give him? I'm not saying you're wrong. Yeah, that's true. So this is a good point from Josh. At least he was taking risks. I think this was a game where the attackers were always going to frustrate a little bit because they had to take risks. But like Martinelli, Saka, Eze, they didn't frustrate me. But Jesus did. Maybe I'm being harsh. Noni Madueke. You tell me what you'd give Madueke. I'm just going to put him here for a second, which obviously tells you that I have him between very good and good. I thought he did some really good stuff on the touchline. He also did some stuff that frustrated me a little bit. I think that's the nature of being a winger. But I think he was quite clearly better than Saliba, Mosquera, Jesus. I sort of noticed him more. Some are saying he was brilliant. Some are saying just good. But I think Madueke belongs in very good. I was torn. I'm not as convinced as I was with Saka or necessarily Martinelli. But I'm happy to put him in very good. I like him, And also, I've been critical of end product. Loads of people have. And he's scored a big goal at Brentford. It would have won us the game if we could defend a set piece. And he's gone and scored the opener against Wigan. So fair play to him. Some people agree he was just good and nothing more. Good or very good. Loved his chemistry with Saka. Yeah, I liked it too. I thought they worked well. Madueke was the frustrating one, according to Kwaku. Good. Cool. Good finish. Took on his man. Very good. 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 The touch down the line was nice. He did some nice stuff. Yeah, that there. I agree with that. Yeah, that's true. Before he released Saka. Yeah, that was good. He was closer to average than very good. Ooh, I think that's a bit harsh. Cool. Happy with that. So that's our 11. There you go. Those are the 11 players. Norgard and Eze were brilliant. Saka, Martinelli, Madueke were very good. Saliba, Mosquera, Jesus were good. Kepa, White, and Lewis Skelly had average games. They just did fine. Yeah. Let me know what you'd change. I'm going to sip some water. I'm going to mute my mic. I'm going to sip some water. Let me know what you would change here. Then we'll go to soup chats and then we'll do the bench. But put in the comments, what from there do you think is, looking at them all now together, what do you think's wrong and needs changing? So thirsty, oh my word. Okay, we're back. Drink water. It's good for you. Okay. Someone saying White was good. Why did I show my water bottle to my camera? People saying White was good. Quite a few people are saying it. And Mosquera should be in very good. Okay. I think Ben White and Kepa are good and Jesus very good. I'm not convinced that Mosquera belongs in very good, if I'm honest, because I didn't really notice him, but maybe that's why he was very good. Happy with Jesus. I'll concede on White. Going into good. And I made the arguments for him being good anyway earlier, so it's not a struggle for me to put him there. There you go. All right, cool. I'm cool with that. Only reason Kepa is average is because he did make a good save. It was also blasted at him, and he had nothing else to do. The bench. Gyökeres came on at halftime. This is really tricky. I think I've got to say Gyökeres was average today. He did some nice things. He won a free kick, showed a decent burst there. I think if Martinelli finds him earlier, he probably scores. He hit the post off for a good Ben White pass. Yeah, I think he was average. I think he did okay. I mean, he's definitely looking like he's more comfortable with English football than he did, 2 months ago. But I'm not sure I can have him down as good. I think with Jesus, Mosquera, Saliba, White, I think they quite clearly did some good things. Right, that stood out a little bit more than Gyökeres, but yeah, it's all right. I'm not particularly worried about it. I really liked what he did against Brentford, so I think this was a case of a run out. Don't overexert yourself. We're 4-0 up. Trossard. I thought Trossard was good, you know. I thought Trossard came on and looked lively. Had the beating with his fullback a little bit, put a nice ball into the box. I think Trossard belongs in good, maybe even very good. But I think I'm happy with that. I don't see a need to change too much. A few of you agreeing. Yeah, it was good, very good, 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 very good. Cool. We're all pretty much on the same wavelength. Zubamendi, good as well. One possession back a few times, whipped a lovely ball into the box for Martinelli, which I think Gabby should have scored from. And just kind of kept it moving, really. I thought it was a good cameo from Zubamendi. I thought he looked, I like the different areas he was popping into. I like that he was getting forward a lot, trying to make things happen. It's a shame that Norgard had to go back into the defence because Ben White had to come off. But yeah, I thought it was good from Martin Zubamendi. I thought it was a good little cameo. Yeah, a lot of you agreeing. Good, good. Good, good. Cool. Not much to add there. Marley Salmon. Do you know what? You will get your salmon ratings in. I'll be so real with you. At this point, I was like wrapping up, putting some bits and bobs together, doing some little house admin. The game was won long before that. I wasn't able to keep a close eye on salmon. I've just got a super busy night. So Setford, I'm just going to say was good because he came on and did really well to claim that cross. Fair play to him. And Salmon, a lot of you saying, well, good, average, brilliant, good, very good. Couldn't really rate the performance from that game. I hear it. Good. Should we just put Salmon in good with a lot of the others? Okay, there we go, everyone. There we go. Those are your player ratings or rankings, tier list, whatever you want to call it. Norgard and Eze. I said Norgard and Neze. Well done. Norgard and Eze, the only two brilliant players on the day. Saka, Martinelli, and Madueke certainly knocking on the door of that. They were very good. Saliba, Mosquera, Jesus, White, Trossard, Zumendi, Setford, and Salmon had good games, while Kepa, Lewis, Skelly, and Gyökeres were average. They did some good things. Otherwise, didn't notice them too much. Maybe there were some things in their game that were at times a little frustrating. With Kepa's case, he just didn't have any work to do, so probably a little bit fair. I'm happy with that. I think that's quite a fair rating. I don't think there's any there that's kind of wildly wrong. But if you're watching this back later, tell me if you disagree in the comments. And in the live chat now, you've got a couple more minutes to let me know. Let's do super chats. 13 killings. Okay, interesting name. I wanted to post this after Brentford. Have noticed one thing, 22-23, when we drop points, almost always it was at an individual error. But last year and this year, when we drop points, it's almost always the 11's technical level drops. Yeah, more often than not, when you're a side that good and you start dropping points, there'll be certain trends, which is why I've been I've been harping on so much about what you said, technical level dropping. So us passing the ball off the pitch, us just not looking after it as much. It feels more mental than it does technical, but the mental spills into the technical. So we know the technical level Arsenal can play at, but I agree with you. I felt that we've been sloppy at times. So yeah, agreed. I did say Saka was good enough to play right 8, like Kudus at Ajax, James. You remember? I don't remember, but fair play to you. And yeah, Kudus did play there. He played up front. But this is what I mean. I think Kudus is a little bit more explosive than Saka, but that's how I want to use him. As a false 9 in midfield at times, off the right, but moving into the inside. I think that's how he can hurt teams the most. Loved Eze Norgard taking risks, played forward, but a few turnovers from it. Can see why we refrain from that, as better teams could hurt us. Yeah, I agree with that too. But I think in this game, it was well worth the risk, and it worked. Norgard Cruz. Norgard Cruz. Why not? Maybe he's going to be our secret weapon between now and the end of the year. All right, everyone, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you enjoyed the player ratings. Obviously, a lot of it, as I always do with these lives, a lot of it is figuring it out on the spot. But I like getting the help of the comment section. I like a lot of you letting me know what you think, letting me know where I've got things wrong, reminding me of things I must have missed. Difficult in a game like this with the opposition were, as respectfully as possible, so uncompetitive. Means that basically everyone looked good. In reality, we could just say everyone was very good and keep it moving. There's probably no need for a stream like this. But if you're doing the you know, what do they call it? Fine tooth comb or something like that. When you're basically being really picky and splitting hairs, this is probably a fair reflection of where it ended up for everyone. Hope you've enjoyed this. I'll see you very soon. Loose Cannon's out tomorrow. Maybe a video out tomorrow too. My match reactions on Goonerverse News as well. All right. Catch you all in a bit.